Yes, managing data as a product is a paradigm shift in the data management practice. It is based on the belief that nowadays, in the fourth industrial revolution, data is one of the most valuable assets that organizations have in order to compete in a volatile and uncertain market. For this reason, the data cannot be treated anymore like in traditional data management approaches as just raw material or a byproduct of application and processes, but deserve to be treated as a product in itself. Managing a data as a product, when we start to manage a data as a product, the focus in the data management practice shift from just acquiring and storing data, usually in a central and monolithic platform, more toward the capability of identifying relevant data to support business problem, and to use this data to create solutions that have an impact on the goals defined by the business strategy. Applying principle and technique of product management to the relevant data asset means first of all identify clear responsibilities on all the relevant data asset that has been identified. So each relevant data asset or collection of data asset that we want to treat as a product must have a clear product owner with possibly a dedicated product cross-functional product team. This means that the architecture of the organization, the socio-technical architecture, must be rethinked in order to move more toward a modular architecture in which the boundaries of each modules are defined around the relevant data asset, are defined around the concept of data product. Adopting this new paradigm, of course, it's hard because it's a big shift respected to the previous approaches to data management. And in this book, I try to provide practical advices to move into this transformational journey successfully and arrive to complete this paradigm shift and start to managing your data asset as a product. It's very important to manage data as a product today, because company, in order to thrive in a complex, volatile, uncertain environment, needed to capitalize in the best way possible their data asset. And the approach of managing data as a product try to overcome some intrinsic problem of traditional approaches to data management. In particular, two problems. The first of all is the sustainability problem. We know that traditional approaches to data management produce very complex solutions, usually monolithic and centralized solutions, that over time tend to collapse under the weight of their own complexity. And this is the reason why a lot of organizations every 3, 4, 5 years need to replace their old data platform, their old data management solution with a new one built from scratch using new technology that market provide. But this approach of rip and replace our data management solution, of course, is not sustainable, and the business is a little bit buoyed by this stop and go approach to data management. Of course, data product try to solve this problem by applying a strategy that is largely used in all engineering practices when it comes to design a complex system. And the data management solution is a very complex, such a technical system. And the idea is that if the system is too much complex, the best way to design and manage it is to decompose the system in modules. And these modules, if they are isolated, I can concentrate all the modification in one place without having to care too much about the intricacy that characterize the other part of the system itself. So it's more simple to evolve the system in a controlled and sustainable way over time. The second reason is because the collection of the data product that we implement to support different use cases compose a sort of library of building block that can be reused over time, even combined together in different configuration to support new use cases. So give to the organization the optionality that is needed to adapt to different situations, to different business needs, and to different requirements in the future. To recap, there are two main reasons that are very important today and that solve some intrinsic problem of the previous approach that we can find in managing data as a product. One is we can create solutions that are more sustainable over time. And the second one, we can create solutions that can adapt fast to new context, to new requirement, to the need to implement new use cases that are not known at the moment of the implementation of the solution itself. There are a lot of definitions of what a data product is. When I started to write the book, of course, I did an extensive research, collecting a lot of these definitions. But the greatest part of them are really general, basically describing the product through its main characteristics. So it's very difficult to have a clear cut on what a data product is and what is not according to this definition, or when it is possible, usually they are too much generic. So a lot of things, too much application can be considered to be a data product. So basically, most of them are not so much actionable. So I came out with my definition for the book with the goal to have something that is really actionable and can use it throughout all the book to explain how to create this object and define a strategy to adopt this modality of working and managing the data. So in my definition, a data product is first and foremost a software application. So it's not just data, is software that manage data, but is a particular kind of software that manage data that have two main characteristics. The first one, of course, is developed using the principle of product management. There are a lot of software applications that are not managed as a product, as just the deliverable of a specific project. So it's very important to call something a product that is managed as a product using the principle of product management. The second important characteristic is the fact that for a data product, the data is not there only to support the functionality, so it's not just a byproduct of the product itself, but the functionality are driven by the data. The functionality exists because of the data. It's a way of exposing the data or exposing an outcome that is generated directly by the data itself. So according to this definition, a report, a dashboard, a machine learning model, for example, to do a recommendation is an example of possible data product. Of course, this kind of data product does not expose directly data, but expose some action or some visualization of the data. And I call this class of data product analytical application. Then there is another class of data product that I call pure data product. Maybe the name is not fantastic, but it's called like this to underline the fact that this class of data product expose to their functionality just pure data, the data asset that they manage in the first place. So the difference between pure data product and analytical application is the fact that the analytical application implement one specific use case, and the data managed by the analytical application is not directly exposed to be reused for other use cases. So basically is a sync, collect the data and then expose a functionality that can be used and implement a specific use case. Instead, a pure data product, because expose just data, does not implement directly a use case, but provide the data that can support a use case, and in the future can also be reused to support other use case, or can be combined in different combination with other data, external data exposed by other product, to create a complex use case, or to implement a complex business cases. Toward the book, I'm concentrated specifically on the pure data product, because the pure data product are the foundation of the data management solution. Pure data products are the building blocks that can be used and reused over time to implement different use cases. So the first concern of the platform is to create this kind of data product, of course not with a make-to-stock approach, so create even if there are not use cases satisfied, because in the future they can be used to implement some use cases. But whenever there is a use case, instead to implement it directly as a monolithic or siloed analytical application, first understand what are the data that is needed to implement these use cases, expose the data implementing properly one or more pure data product, and then build the analytical application on top of this pure data product. In this way, I have satisfied the use case, but at the same time, I have created a set of data product that in the future can be reused to implement other use cases. Otherwise, if I implement toward data product only analytical application, every time a new use case come out, I need also to re-implement all the data integration part. I have not the possibility to reuse the work that I did in the past to implement other use cases. So this is what for me is a data product. These are the two families that compose the data product class, and the book is particularly concentrated on the pure data product, how to create an architecture, a sort of technical architecture to manage pure data product. A data product is a software application, so most of its components are similar to the ones of any other software application. So we can divide the component in internal and external component. The internal component are data, of course, but not only the data. There are also the code and the applications that process data, transform the data, and make the data available to external consumer. And there are also the infrastructural components that are required to run these applications and are used by the application that transform data to store the data. Moreover, as an internal component, aside the data, there is also the metadata. So all the data that describe the data managed by the data product, provide context to this data and make the data actually usable for an external consumer. This is not a secondary aspect, but it is very important because considering the metadata an integral part of the data product means that the data product owner and the team that developed the data product is accountable not only for the data, but also for the production and the quality of metadata that describe the data under management. So there is not an external data stewardship team that is in charge to populate, create, and manage the metadata in a second moment after the publication of the data product, but the management of the metadata is on the product team. And so the metadata and data lifecycle are aligned it's not basically possible to deploy a new instance of a data product if all the required metadata are not in place and properly exposed to potential consumer or to the underlying platform. This is the main component, the main internal component. Then there are the external components. The external components are basically the interfaces that describe the service toward which the data product exposes functionality or its data. The external component, this interface, define a clear boundary around the internal component, create an abstraction that can be used by the consumer to assess functionality without having to know how these functionality are internally implemented. Moreover, the interfaces contain the description, of course, of the API of the services exposed to external consumers, but also the service agreements and the contract that define how this service can be assessed and what are the guarantee that the developer team of the product ensure to the consumer of these services. Data product-centric architecture is a way to design a data management solution around the concept of managing data as a product. A data management solution is a complex socio-technical system, so the architecture that we need to design must cover both the organizational and the technical part of the system. The system is a unique system. There is not the organizational part that is a system, on the other side, the technical part that is another system. Is just one integrated system, and so the architecture that we design must cover these two parts in a synergic way and co-evolve them over time. From the technological standpoint, the architecture that we want to design is not monolithic, but is a modular architecture in which the unit of modularization are, of course, the data product. From the organizational point of view, instead, we need to have some critical capabilities in place in terms of the organization. Then this can be implemented in a different way and can be divided into different organizational functions. But at the very high level, these capabilities are 6 capabilities. The first capability, of course, is the ability to organize the resources, processes, technologies around the concept of data product and have the ability to implement a new data product. Then the second one is the ability of the organization of define shared governance policies that are applied by all the stakeholders within the data ecosystem. This capability of policy making is very important because are these governance policies that guarantee the fact that all the products built within the solution can over time interoperate and be composed in order to support different use cases and different needs. The third capability is the platforming capability, that is the ability to centralize the development of cross-concern functionality in order to make more frictionless the development of new data product, reducing the cognitive load upon the data product team. That in this way, thanks to the platform, can concentrate more on the business problem they try to solve and less on technological intricacy and complexity, because these are already resolved by the central platform. The fourth critical capability is the enabling capability. It is also very, very important because the adoption of the new paradigm is not something that happen overnight, but happen in an incremental way. So it's needed to have in place a change management process. And the enabling capability is exactly the ability to support this change management process process through activity of facilitation, enabling, training. The goal is to facilitate the transition to the new paradigm, to make easy the scaling within the organization, to make easy to onboard a new team within new domains, and make this team autonomous in working within the new paradigm in a very fast way. The fifth capability is the capability to manage the data product portfolio, and in general all the deliverable that are produced by the previous one mentioned capabilities, in order to align the initiative that happens within the portfolio to the goal defined by the business strategy. So this ability should define the priority, identify the activity, grouping the activity into initiative, identify the priority, and allocate properly the budget in a iterative way. So also checking the results of the different activities that are under development, and decide if there is the need to reprioritize according to how this activity and their outcome effectively have an impact on the goal defined by the global business, the business strategy. Last capability that must be in place in order to support the new paradigm is the coordination capability, that is more related to project management in a complex environment in where I have different initiatives that are developed by different teams, possibly in a distributed environment. Of course, the architecture that we have described is a modular architecture, and the interdependencies between the different teams should be reduced. But anyway, there are some correlation that must be managed at the project level. So the coordination capability is focused on that thing. Be sure that the different initiatives that are developed within the portfolio are well coordinated, and the overall flow of the data management function is as fast and frictionless as possible. So basically, these are at the high level an architecture centered around the concept of data product. As I said, this architecture can be operationally implemented in a different way, more centralized, decentralized, hybrid approach. And within the book, I delve more into the detail of these different options, when to apply one or the other according to the relative maturity of the organization within their journey of adopting this new paradigm. Aside managing data as a product, nowadays probably two most popular modern approaches to data management are data mesh and data fabric. Managing data as a product can be seen as a simplified version of data management, of data mesh, in which the principle of decentralizing data product ownership toward domains is relaxed. In fact, in managing data as a product, it is possible to decentralize the ownership toward the domain, and so turn the managing data as a product approach in a fully decentralized data mesh, but it is not necessary to do this level of decentralization. In a lot of organizations, there is also not need to arriving to this full level of decentralization. Managing data as a product can be applied in a fully centralized organization or in a hybrid organization in which some parts are decentralized, but there is not a fully decentralization. This is important also to organizations that want to implement a fully decentralized data mesh, because this handover is a very complex handover that cannot happen overnight. So it's a journey, a transformation in which you decentralize the ownership step by step in an incremental way. So basically you start from an approach that is based on managing data as a product, and then in an incremental way, according to the need of your organization, you move toward a more full decentralized approach till arriving to a fully decentralized data mesh. When we talk about data fabric, instead, data fabric is a little bit different respect to data mesh and managing data as a product, because is really focused only on the technological part. So there are not mention of the organizational part, on how to organize the organizational part. And so for this reason, basically it can be used together in a complementary way with both data mesh and managing data as a product. In fact, both these approaches have the concept of having an underlying self-service domain agnostic platform that can support the product team, reducing their cognitive load, make them able to focalize more on the business problem at hand. And these underlying platforms, service underlying platform, can in fact be implemented using the principle, the guideline, the archetype defined by the data fabric approach. So basically can leverage metadata, activate metadata, turn metadata into knowledge in order to automatize the data integration activity and the data management activity, but not in a general way, but in a very specific way. So the automatization is related to the development and the life cycle of the data product. So basically this approach is not really far. There is not the need to decide between one or the other, but in general, a good approach to start with is managing data as a product, because it's basically always a good idea to implement a complex solution, a complex system, by modularizing it. And then on the way, you can decide if you want to decentralize more the ownership, and so moving toward the data mesh or not. And you can decide when it comes to design the underlying platform if you want to apply the principle and the archetype of data fabric or have a different kind of architecture for your platform.